Excellently on, voila. I used to be a contortionist, and then I realized that the term head up my ass had a more figurative meaning. And then I tried incorporating that into banter, and Lord knows it's not going very well. One job, Andre, one job. Do you guys want to do the laughs first, or do you want to go like right to the a few parts of life? Laughs, dance, monkey, dance! For whatever reason, sometimes I imagine myself like Joan Rivers. Every now and again. Ed Gein, who you wearing, who you wearing? My native tongue is trucker mouth. Adam and Eve were made for each other. Rapunzel had her hair which garnered her a prince, and I have an internet connection that has led to an unsightly chain from jacking off from too much free internet porn. So, doing as any other semi-self-respecting 23-year-old gay man does when locked inside of his masturbatory, I joined plenty of fish. Because with over 1 million people online, you are guaranteed to find yourself a catch. Well, so far the only thing I've caught was a boot that was made for walking some seaweed in a man that showers with his dog. No! I will not screw the pooch with plenty of fish. I will not settle for anything less. I am tantalizing like homemade meatloaf made correctly. I am fierce like a fucking drag queen without the scary eye makeup, and I'm kind of just badass in a really awkward 7th grade kind of a way. But the pull of a meaningful conversation grabs my dead-weight heartstrings and kind of necromances them like Pinocchio bound to the flesh, pulling me back to that computer screen where hopefully I can find someone that understands, but with over 1 million people online, you will never feel more unwanted and alone. Which goes to show that Adam and Eve were made for each other, but they had no fucking clue on how to make love. That Rapunzel grew out her hair and nervously chewed on the ends of it, waiting for her prince to save her from her emotional walls, and I have an internet connection that has left me feeling disconnected. And I lied when I said I was easygoing. Lord knows I'm a stage 5 clinger and my neuroses know no bounds. I lied when I said I wasn't looking for anything serious. Seriously, put a fucking ring on this thing and end this god-awful fishing trip. I am not a fisherman. Do not call me Ahab. I just want a sperm whale. That's what to fucking ask for. The 1 million people. No, fuck you, plenty of fish. You were using the predictable, crunchable relationship to try and define my existence as meaningless without a significant other by my side, so you can sit on it, rotate, and fuck right off until he turns into a raffle copper. I'm single. Because I am awesome. Ladies, gentlemen, comrades and friends, make some noise if you're in the same boat. It's really funny because when I signed up for Plenty of Fish, my handle was 2 girls used my cup.
Oh my God.
Why am I single? Where are you up to? I found with my dog. Again? Damn it! Damn it! Next to doing slam poems, I'm also known to do haiku. You want to see my haiku?
Is that an innuendo?
It shrinks, expands, and then shrinks. 575. I know it's a literary joke, but it's alluding to a different part of it anyways. There's Joan Rivers again. Shit. Spaghetti Western. When cowboys try to rope back, but their ropes are limp. Somewhat gay monkeys eating phallic bananas by Curious George. Emotional scars. Good thing they're invisible, or porn would look gross. What's your number? Kurt Cobain's shotgun. The fanfare. The confetti. Fame was what killed him. One shot fired, and the birds flew away from the trees. They said Lee Harvey Oswald was a communist, which is why the bullets came from the left. 2 shots fired. You heard, I'm hit. Leaned in, either to whisper or to kiss. 3 shots fired, you were sprayed. With skull fragments and mist, people scream. You scampered onto the back of the trunk, grabbing peace of mind that your husband had been shot in the face. Remember, when you leaned in so close on your way, laughing at the fragmented images of the people passing past you in the trees being sprayed by fragmented bits of rice, chasing the doves out of the cathedral where the wedding bells sounded off like gunslingers, showing off their mighty pistols. Remember, when you first met, your mother said never fall in love with a Kennedy, but like Montague to Capulet, Apple to Eden, you couldn't help it. He had a smile that promised you the moon, a brain that gave you NASA and had it delivered to your doorstep in a public display of affection. You were 2 kids that got lost in each other's eyes, imagining what it would be like to grow up and play White House. But as soon as the wedding band was on your finger, the crickets of his inattention started sounding off beneath the clocks in the presidential bedroom. You knew he would cheat on you, but to cheat on his country was a line you thought he would never cross. And between the phone calls from Monroe and the Vietnam War, you could see it in his eyes. The ways the branches tapped on the windows so regimentally it sounded like the footsteps the troops he was sending were taking, but ghostly enough to remind him of the blood on his hands while he waved to people. This was not the man you fell in love with. This was not the future he had promised. And in a private conversation, you said, Johnny, I'm gonna. And he stood there, broke, and then started to throw a temper tantrum and called it the truth. He started screaming World Bank secrets to the public, started slamming doors in front of the military's face. He did it all for you, Jackie. Because you were everything beautiful in this world when you smile, and Lord knows it had been forced for far too long. And we learned that love was a future worth dying for. The day that you put on your pink Coco Chanel suit with matching pillbox hat and then 1-shot fire, the birds flew away. You wore his blood on your clothes for 3 days to show the world what it looked like to sit next to a future worth dying for, much like he had done for you. I was in the shower the other day.
Oh, good.
I know, hey? I'm fucking honest. I bathe. I use shampoo and conditioner in equal or disproportionate amount. Conditioner always goes first. First world problems. But I was in the bathroom and I thought to myself, because my friend had just told me about this massive gas attack she just had. And she was flaunting it, being like, we all love our own brand. And I'm like, does that mean if Obama was to fart in a jar, could he call it President's Choice? Well, double checking. Initially, I'm from Calgary, right? Home of the Calgary Stampede, Nemchi, and Plaid, Mechanical Bulls, Harper. So now that the first 2 were the only good examples I had, one of the most recent things that happened was the flood. And it was this natural disaster that just came out of nowhere. The army was evacuating us from our homes. Like, it was pandemonium. They had streets cornered off so you couldn't drive. There was like no escape. It felt like a rat being forced through a maze with a hungry cat chasing it. If it didn't move fast enough, you'd give up. But that was also the night you told me you were afraid to go to bed alone. Lord knows that it's been raining floods in this here town, and tonight you said just that. I don't want to go to Minnesota. I told you not to worry. That the thunderclaps that sound like Halley's Comet are only the thunderclaps that sound like Halley's Comet hitting Mount Everest are only crescendo drum solos to keep you entertained, that the raindrops hitting your window are nothing more than a concerto of Pichu's, a consistent rhythm that teaches you that this too shall pitter, patter, pass. I said goodnight with one last text. You said it to me too. And when the phone hung up beside me, the only thing I felt was the empty silhouette of every lover that has once slept beside me. Grabbing a pillow helps, but sometimes, when nature starts to sing her powerful lullaby made of crashes and bolts and static-sounding raindrops, the bed starts to feel like a lonely life raft floating on a monsoon sea, and all the emotional baggage I pushed to the crevices of my mind start to surface, like suitcases rising from the Titanic's deathbed as though I lay in my own darling. It's spring. A new season of love unfolding with the dust of a decayed winter being washed away with the tides and storm clouds. The tombstones of all my old lovers have been put to rest. They have bouquets that can turn around and walk away. Anger is a poison, the heart a reflective vessel, and since mine had been broken, I think I better fill it with something new in you. Make this rain feel like butterflies. And from that point of jumping off the cliff to that harsh reality crash landing, if it was never meant to be, that empty space in between the two is filled with them. I think that's why they call this trust exercise you're falling for someone. And yes, love has always been a prairie lightning storm. One moment I am being seduced in an abandoned forest while branches clap with silent approval. The next, I am making love while Sigur Rós serenades the Venus retrograde high in the heaven. The next, I am making out in front of black and white movies playing monochromatic light shows in the background with those kisses. Turned into shadow puppets in the dark, called communication skills that love. Soured itself from the refrigerator with an expiration date unknown to me, and those branches stopped clapping a long time ago. But darling, I hope this doesn't scare you off. I need to tell you that I'm clumsy like a giant with superhuman strength, trying to shake the hand of a baby. When it comes to my emotions, I think we all are. Because sometimes after we've been hurt, it takes that superhuman strength to peel back the bark that's grown over our heart so it can smell like sappy new beginnings made fresh in the morning dew, attracting butterflies I no longer feel the rain. There are so many fucking storms in this world, but darling, I just want to fall in love with it. No longer feel the rain. No longer feel it. What about you? That's something you like to do. That poems that can't say their script. That's true. It's like, oh, look, no. She has no friends, and hates blue skies on sunny days, but it's great. So she grabs a piece of chalk and starts to draw on the sidewalk. She starts with an oval body more than 5 times the size of her malnourished friend soon. It has strict arms poking out awkwardly out of the sides of it. Its hands were simple circles. Its fingers looked like flower petals. And as the finale, she drew the signature head wrap that was synonymous with her mother's face, and so suddenly she started to cry. Instinctively curled up into the drawing that was her mother's lap, trying to remember what it was like being held by a body more than 5 times her size, what it felt like to be held by flower petals. War is the only thing that can make a child lose trust in blue skies and sunny days. That's when the carpet bombings happens and the drone strikes. The buildings turn into rubbles. The family trees get turned into splinters, leaving limbs to draw what they have to remember of their family. But the tears weren't helping her dehydration. And it was getting nice outside. So she wiped them away and disappeared. Because communication is a dying king in this dynasty of touchscreens, right? I mean, as much as we can be connected, we're so out of touch. And then when you find yourselves in a position like this where people are spewing the utmost essence of their humanity to you, you really have no say in what happened. But you guys are so open to the idea of feeling alive, of being reminded of what it's like to just say fuck it. So you guys are fucking classy. Pardon my language, but fuck shit, goddamn, y'all are fucking great. I'm doing great. Woo! Woo! What? Did I miss something? Kind of oblivious sometimes. Alright. Do you guys want to hear the poem I have where I compare the teachings of nihilism and Nietzsche to the lives of comedians?
Okay.
Yes!
It's a bit of an intellectual journey. I was reading the Maginot Line, which was the French defense system in World War II. And this has nothing to do with anything that just crossed my mind. And it was really funny because the French developed this turret system that was completely impenetrable. The only problem is that it was west, the Germans were east. So Hitler's like, you can fuck a bomb. No. You can take the scenic route and Hans, look at this! Und ja, und we can walk around. Mein Gott, we can walk around. Basket. I'm French. You can't tell unless I fail and run away, and if that's the case, don't move. Friedrich Nietzsche is the father of modern comedy, you see. He was telling a joke in hopes of bringing everyone together when he said God is dead. Because from his perspective, if a dog can be man's best friend, then God must be man's best imaginary friend, and if time dictates that dog gets killed off with all the other compassion, then I'm pretty sure the only way to dethrone such a vengeful idea sitting on top of a cloud is by pointing it and laughing, but no one got the joke. So no one laughed. Not until George Carlin hit the stage, because every punchline he devised about mankind, all he ever had to do was hold a mirror towards the audience and they would point back and laugh in full agreement. Richard Pryor expanded on the idea. You see, he was made in God's image, a self-destructive, foul-mouthed train wreck with more ghosts in his head than punctunes from a crown of thorns. He once struck a match on stage after he nearly burned himself alive in a drug-fueled haze and called it Richard Pryor running down the street. Gilda Radner was a wonderful woman, but the spotlight was a bear trap, and she was starving, placed on dextrin diet pills at the age of 10. She embodied a lifelong identity crisis when telling a reporter she had thrown up in every toilet in the Rockefeller Center, but famously laughed it off as she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer and said, if it isn't one thing, it's another. When Nietzsche died, God said, Nietzsche's dead. And then they held hands and away into the fading glow of the abyss. When Carlin kicked the bucket, he dropped the mirror. The audience kept laughing because the applause sign was still on, and they failed to realize that they were the trained dogs he was talking about. When Richard Pryor clutched his chest and fell to the floor for the final time, man's image had become so self-destructive the heroes we created wouldn't even save us anymore. In fact, they'd cut us down in darkened theaters filled with screams. You could smell the gunpowder like sulfur from a match. When Radner's cancer came out of remission, she didn't have time to say a prayer. She was afraid of falling asleep, so the doctor sedated her, and like a princess in a dress, she slipped into a coma. Gene Wilder was by her side. The love of his life died, and his recent movies were a failure. If it isn't one thing, it's another. Nietzsche theorized that the world is an object in which you can either laugh or cry at. Comedians tell the same joke, but they have no tears left. As individuals, they're insufferable, addicted, and so afraid of their own existence. Blistered, burned victims, callous turtle shells, all in one, but as soon as they hit the stage, they can inspire hope in such a twisted way by making us laugh at the cruelest and sadistic parts of our existence, and that's their job. To make sure that you're in on it too. That life's a joke. Death is the punchline. You gotta laugh, because it's the one thing we all have in common. Two more?
5 more. 5. At least 5.
Do I hear 9?
My God, guys. Man, I wish I'd changed my underwear today. Make me feel all sexy, and then there's like this grim realization in the back of my mind going, now everybody knows. You could have stayed quiet. But no. Your parents never established boundaries. You think this is proper conversation skills. Ha ha. Why are you laughing at my pain? Damn you, Brendan Flaherty. Damn you, I love you. Alright, since we got through all the heavy things together, I think we should liven things up there. I'm George the King. Dear Edith Piaf, the moment you were born in the doorway of some long-forgotten shop, your mother screamed in agony while the pavement was the first thing to hold. From that point on, your life was to be determined as a Molotov cocktail served in a champagne bottle. Your spirit the bull, your body the china shop, blinded from conitis as a child, and abandoned into the hands of your grandmother's brothel where the women sold their souls in ways that made the devil wince. And as a lonely baby screaming from your crib, the angels listened in but did nothing. As your voice was that beautiful, God's way is that mysterious. Soon enough, you were 7 years old and you had heard the girls calling out for a miracle many times before, but for the first time, you could finally see the heavily caked makeup of the velvet voices of the women who had raised you. It was a miracle under a godless roof, and you grew. A love for the downtrodden, the hurt, and the rejected, because that was the pain from whence you came, and you sang. For the lovers that were ripped from your arms, and for the ones that ripped the hearts right off your sleeve and ran away, you sang. On bitter days when Hitler invaded France, and on cold winter nights when lonesome bodies were left to go to bed alone, you sang. When there was nothing left for you or your country, you sang. But then, how did you do it? I ask because I have a heart that's carved with initials I can't erase. Perpetually lonely and kept awake from nightmares of a little boy locked inside of a bedroom with tin-foiled windows, a wet bed, and a heavy-handed shadow man wanting to play patty cake with his belt. I've learned attachment issues with an obsessive mind, so I'm constantly writing I wish you were here postcards that have previously rehearsed apology letters up as a mixed message deep inside and thrown into the rubble of every burning bridge I've left behind, and hopefully they can read the smoke. Madame Piaf, this is one of those nights when lightning strikes twice out of spite, and I'm left withdrawing into the nervous alien wearing my skin. Madame Piaf, this is one of those nights where I'm trying to pick up the pieces like fall leaves kicked up by a bitter wind with hands so out of touch. Madame Piaf, this is one of those nights where you would have sang the loudest, where you'd have damned those that doubted you and kept your demons at bay with the force of 1,000 brass bells. You would have sang because you were a woman who was barely 5'1" and took the name of a sparrow because life never once took you into consideration. And in this darkened vortex we call the earth, you lit a candle and called it hope. Madame Piaf, avec tout mon cœur, je vous remercie, parce que ta voix ce soir, mon Dieu. And on nights like this, it's nice to know that a little bird is telling me to keep my chin. It's nice to know that none of us can ever truly be alone in this darkened vortex, so long as we use our voice. Give it up for my family who's here. If you find me palpable as a human being, you have them to thank. As an individual, you can hate my guts. I'm cool with that. I'm a Buddhist, yo. I can practice compassion to your attachment. Whatever. I'm just a French one. There's Facebook. It's called Phase 1 with everything. There's a weird thing about being a human being, you know. Like, we're kind of born into the hands of strangers, and hope to God they know what's best for us. Chances are they really fucking don't. Because they too were born into the hands of strangers, and since then this perpetual notion that we're being born into the hands of strangers and only hope to God we can take care of ourselves in the long run, well, it eventually pans out to a point where you realize it's all up to you. And that life is a lie with an F in it, death is the only definite. This I've come to understand. I understand that I'm nothing more than a broken clock, right twice a day, and the only times that I am right is when I fully admit that I'm wrong. Because that's what life is. It's a constant paradox of shoulda, woulda, coulda, maybe the executioner, judge, jury would feel differently. But if I should die tonight, do not bury me. For the last memory you'll have is of me being laid to rest, covered from all the dirt that will spill, for me no longer guarding the skeletons inside my closet. Instead, have me cremated. Use my ashes to fill up fireworks so that everyone may gather on top of the highest hill, feel the breeze, dance around like a kabuki clown while looking up into the sky as I say my final bye. If I should die tonight, open my safe. There's no money, I'm a poet. Let's be fucking real. There is, however, my ID photograph, my birth certificate, and other paper trail paraphernalia. I would love it if you could draw on them with snazzy names like Captain Obvious or even Maurice. Why? Because those names seem a little bit more representative of my identity than the name I've kept locked so firmly in a safe. Better yet, steal my identity, as of course I'm not going to need it. Grow a scraggly beard and wear a badge of pay so my ID photograph looks legit with you. Get a credit card, buy a car. Ride off into the random side with the road map fluttering behind your speeding wheels, but please, no matter where you go, do not go overboard. As there are people I don't know of that love you more than you will ever know, and you do not need to destroy yourself to try and prove it to be true. Trust me on that one. And if you feel as though the car that you bought in my name has broken down on the side of the road and the tumbleweeds are gathering more momentum than your life ever could, that's fine. We all feel lost sometimes. So place a globe. Somewhere is my memorial. Go to it whenever you feel the need for direction. Spin it like a basketball until it falls on its axis. Maybe I can teach you that direction is unnecessary. Most times all it takes is leaving your house and shaking the world upside down to find out where you really need to be. But no matter what you think you've said or done, never, ever diminish the beats of your own drum. Simply strengthen the presence in which you present them so that others may dance around freely and comfortably alongside you. See yourself as a free-ruling agent of the universe, capable of many wonderful things. Love being the greatest of which. Know that you are only bound by your doubts and expectations. So cut those shackles, babe, and set a course for high heaven, because that's where we belong. And know that if I should die tonight, I'm not writing this just so I can hear myself talk later. I'm writing this to refresh my memory on the delicate intricacies of a ladybug crawling up the dewy stem of a flower and how we are equally as fragile, how I was some of all of my experiences, but what defines me is not my past, but my heart, much like yours does too. So if I should die tonight, that's it. Game over, no more quarters. That's fine. Naturally scared, but I can go at peace, knowing that I've learned the two greatest lessons of all time. So if I should go, find a lover, grab their hand, and after you ditch the car that you bought in my name, it was burgundy to begin with, dump that bitch on the side of the road. Run to the highest hill where there'll be a jukebox, place your quarter inside of it so you may listen to me love's bat out of hell, serenade me as I get shot into the sky in a fireworks display. But before I go, here's a copy of my safe key and a thank you note for allowing me to know what it's like to be loved and loved in return. The two greatest things you could ever let a person feel. Thanks, guys. Woo!